Marcus Cole dropped to his knees in the snow. His hands shook as he touched the small body half buried in the drift. A child. 6 years old, maybe less.
It's a very
Her
difficult
lips were
position.
blue.
It
Her
is not
fingers
ideal.
curled like frozen petals.
We have to consider the long term.
She wasn't moving. "No," he breathed. "No, no, no." He pressed 2 fingers to her throat. Nothing. Then faint, impossibly faint, a pulse. Alive. Barely. He scooped her up, and her head fell against his chest. She weighed almost nothing. "Let me carry you," he whispered. "I've got you now." He didn't know her name. He didn't know she would change everything. Before we continue, tell us where you're watching from. Drop your city in the comments. We want to see how far this story travels. And if you want to follow Marcus through every twist of this journey, hit subscribe and stay until the very end. This story will stay with you. Marcus Cole had been driving for 6 hours when his phone rang. He didn't answer. He already knew what it was, another voicemail from his mother asking when he'd arrive. Another reminder that Sergeant Hayes was running out of time. The man who saved his life in Kandahar. The man who held him together when his own father was nothing but a ghost story. William Hayes had 3 weeks left, maybe 4. The cancer had 1. All that remained was goodbye. Marcus gripped the wheel tighter. 36 years old, built like a weapon, trained to survive anything, and he couldn't outrun the feeling that he was already too late. The storm had rolled in an hour ago. Visibility dropped to nothing. His headlights barely cut through the white wall ahead. He should have stopped. Any reasonable person would have pulled over, waited it out. But Marcus Cole hadn't been reasonable in a long time. His phone buzzed again. This time a text. "Hurry, he's asking for you." Marcus pressed the accelerator. The truck appeared out of nowhere. Overturned, half buried in a snowdrift on the shoulder. No hazard lights, no movement. Marcus's trained eyes caught at a flash of metal where there shouldn't be metal. He slowed. Every instinct screamed at him to keep driving. Hayes was dying. Every minute mattered. But something else made him stop. A shape in the snow. Small. Too small. Marcus pulled over. He was out of the car before the engine died, boots punching through the crust of ice. The shape became a body. A child. Jesus Christ. He dropped beside her, hands already moving. Airway breathing circulation, the rhythm drilled into him through years of combat medicine. Her skin was gray, her lips were blue. Ice crystals clung to her eyelashes. No coat, no gloves, just a thin dress soaked through and frozen stiff. Who does this to a child? He checked her pulse. Found it barely. A flutter against his fingertips, weak as a dying bird. "Okay," he said more to himself than to her. "Okay, stay with me." He unzipped his jacket and pressed her against his chest, wrapping the fabric around them both. Body heat. It was all he could give her right now. "Let me carry you," he whispered. "You're gonna be okay. I promise." She didn't respond. He hadn't expected her to. Movement near the truck. Marcus's head snapped up. His free hand went to his hip, old habit, though he hadn't carried a weapon in months. Someone was lying in the snow. An old man crumpled against the driver's door, and beside him, pressed tight to his body, a German shepherd, whimpering softly. Marcus moved fast, the girl still clutched to his chest. He knelt beside the man. Sir, can you hear me?" The old man's eyes opened, pale blue clouded with pain and cold. His lips moved, but no sound came out. "Easy," Marcus said. "I'm going to help you." The man grabbed his arm. His grip was surprisingly strong. "Please, I'm here. I've got you. The girl, she's with me. She's alive." Something changed in the old man's face. Relief, but not enough. Fear still lived there, deep and desperate. "They're coming," he rasped. Marcus felt his pulse quicken. "Who's coming? Protect her. Please. She's all I have left." The man's eyes rolled back. His grip went slack. "Hey, stay with me." Marcus checked his pulse. Weak but present. Hypothermia, probably shock. He needed to move fast. The dog struggled to its feet, limping badly. It looked at Marcus with eyes that held something almost human trust or hope, or both. "Come on," Marcus said. "All of you. We're getting out of here." Loading them into his truck took precious minutes he didn't have. The girl first wrapped in every blanket he could find. The old man next, heavier than he looked, dead weight against Marcus's shoulder. The dog last climbing in on its own, despite the injured leg refusing to leave its people. Marcus cranked the heat to maximum. Checked his phone, no signal. The storm had killed the towers, or buried them in interference. The nearest hospital was 40 minutes away. In these conditions, maybe an hour. The girl's breathing was shallow. Too shallow. "Don't you quit on me," Marcus said. "You hear me? Don't you dare quit." He drove faster than he should have. The road was invisible under the snow. Twice the truck fishtailed. Twice Marcus corrected without thinking muscle memory from 100 combat extractions. In the rearview mirror, the old man's eyes opened again. "Where?" he managed. "Hospital. 20 minutes. "No." Marcus frowned. "Sir, you need medical attention." "No hospitals." The old man struggled to sit up, wincing. "They'll find us. They have people everywhere." Who's after you?" The old man looked at the girl. His face crumpled. "My granddaughter. They killed her mother. Now they want her." Marcus's hands tightened on the wheel. "Start talking." The old man's name was Thomas Brennan, retired federal judge, 72 years old. 3 days ago, he'd fled his home in Helena with nothing but the clothes on his back, his granddaughter, and a dog named Shadow. "My daughter Catherine," Thomas said, his voice breaking. "She was an investigator. Corporate crime. She found something big about a company called Northfield Industries." Marcus knew the name. Pharmaceutical giant. Headquarters in Billings. Donated to every politician who mattered. What did she find? A drug. They knew it was contaminated. They shipped it anyway. 47 people died. Thomas coughed a wet, rattling sound. Catherine had proof. Bank records, internal memos, everything. What happened to her? Silence. "Mr. Brennan, what happened to your daughter?" "They killed her." Thomas's voice was barely a whisper. "Made it look like suicide, but I know my Catherine. She would never." He couldn't finish. His whole body shook with silent sobs. The girl stirred in the front seat. Her eyes opened, huge, dark, terrified. "Grandpa?" Thomas reached forward, touching her hair with trembling fingers. "I'm here, sweetheart. I'm here." "Where's Mommy?" Marcus felt something twist in his chest. He'd seen death in a dozen countries. He'd held friends as they bled out in the sand. But this, a child asking for a mother who was never coming back? This was something else entirely. Thomas looked at Marcus. His eyes begged for help. Marcus made a decision. "Lily," he said softly. The girl looked at him. "My name is Marcus. I'm going to keep you safe. Can you trust me?" She studied him for a long moment. Whatever she saw must have been enough. "Okay," she whispered. Marcus didn't go to the hospital. He drove instead to the only place he could think of, the only man he trusted completely. William Hayes lived in a cabin 40 miles from nowhere, deep in the mountains. No neighbors, no cell service, no way to find it unless you already knew where to look. It took 2 hours to get there. The storm fought them every mile. When they finally arrived, Marcus carried Lily to the door. Thomas leaned on his shoulder, barely able to walk. Shadow limped behind them. The door opened before Marcus could knock. William Hayes stood there, thinner than Marcus remembered, pale and hollow-eyed. Cancer had eaten away at him, but his gaze was still sharp, still the same gaze that had commanded men through the worst firefights imaginable. "Jesus, son." Hayes stepped aside. "Get them inside, now." The next hour was chaos. Hayes, despite his condition, moved with practiced efficiency. He started a fire, heated water, found dry clothes and blankets. Marcus worked on Lily, warming her, slowly checking her vitals, watching for signs of frostbite. Thomas sat in the corner, staring at nothing. "The girl's going to make it," Hayes said quietly, standing beside Marcus. "She's tough." "She shouldn't have to be." Hayes nodded. "None of them should. But here we are." When Lily finally fell asleep, warm breathing steadily, Shadow curled at her feet, Marcus stepped outside. The storm had passed. Stars filled the sky, cold and indifferent. Hayes joined him on the porch. "You gonna tell me what this is about?" Marcus told him. Everything Thomas had said, the company, the cover-up, the murders. Hayes listened without interrupting. When Marcus finished, the old soldier was silent for a long moment. "Northfield Industries," he finally said. "You know them." Hayes's jaw tightened. 30 years ago, they had a different name. Different drugs. Same bodies. "What do you mean?" Hayes turned to face him. Something in his eyes made Marcus's blood run cold. "I mean, I've seen this before, son. And the man who tried to stop them, the man who gathered evidence, who was going to blow the whole thing wide open, they destroyed him." "Who was he?" Hayes didn't answer immediately. He looked up at the stars, then back at Marcus. "His name was James Cole." Marcus felt the ground shift beneath his feet. "What did you say?" "James Cole. Accountant, originally. Worked for Northfield in the early 90s. Discovered they were cooking the books on a clinical trial that killed 31 people. Hayes's voice was steady but heavy. "He came to me for help. I was with intelligence then. I was supposed to protect him." "You're lying." "I wish I was." Marcus grabbed Hayes by the collar. The old man didn't resist. "My father abandoned us. He left when I was 5 years old and never looked back. He didn't leave Marcus." Hayes's voice cracked. "He was taken. Northfield had people everywhere. Law enforcement, federal agencies. When James threatened to go public, they made him disappear. Made it look like he walked out on his family." "That's impossible." "They told your mother he ran off with another woman. They told the neighbors the same thing. By the time anyone thought to question it, the story was set." Hayes put his hand on Marcus's arm. "I tried to find him. For years I tried. I failed." Marcus released him. His whole body was trembling. "You knew. This whole time you knew, and you never told me." "I didn't have proof. I had suspicions, theories, nothing I could take to you without destroying what little peace your mother had found." "Peace." Marcus laughed, a bitter, broken sound. "She spent 30 years thinking he didn't love her. She raised me alone. She worked herself to the bone because—" His voice broke. He turned away. Behind him, Hayes spoke quietly. "There's more, son. The prosecutor who was supposed to help your father build the case. The man who got scared at the last minute and backed out, who let Northfield's lawyers tear the evidence apart." Marcus closed his eyes. He already knew what was coming. It was Thomas Brennan. Marcus stood there for a long time. The cold bit into his skin, but he barely felt it. His father hadn't abandoned them. His father had tried to be a hero, and the man inside that cabin, the man Marcus had just saved, was the reason he'd failed. The irony was so perfect it made him want to scream. When he finally went back inside, Thomas was awake. Their eyes met. "You know," Thomas said. It wasn't a question. "I know." Thomas nodded slowly. "I've spent 30 years trying to atone for what I did. I prosecuted corruption cases. I put men in prison. I tried to be better. You left my father to die. I left him to something worse than death." Thomas's voice was hollow. "I left him to vanish, to be erased. I was a coward, and your family paid the price." Marcus wanted to hate him. Every cell in his body screamed for it, but then he looked at Lily sleeping peacefully by the fire, her small chest rising and falling. Innocent, unaware that the adults around her were drowning in decades of betrayal. "Your granddaughter needs you," Marcus said finally. "So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to find whoever killed Catherine. I'm going to get the evidence she gathered, and then I'm going to burn Northfield to the ground." Thomas stared at him. "You'll help me," Marcus continued, "because you owe my father that much. And when this is over, when Lily is safe, you and I are going to have a different conversation. And if I refuse," Marcus met his eyes without blinking, "then I walk out that door, and you're on your own. You and Lily, and whatever's coming for you next." A long silence. Thomas extended his hand. "I'll tell you everything I know." They talked until dawn. Thomas explained the evidence. Catherine had gathered the USB drive with financial records, medical reports, internal communications. It proved everything: the contaminated drugs, the cover-up, the deaths. "She hid it," Thomas said. "Told only Lily where it was. Catherine knew they'd come for her eventually. She wanted insurance." "Where is it?" "I don't know exactly. Catherine gave Lily a code word. When she hears it, she'll remember." "What's the code word?" Thomas shook his head. "Catherine didn't tell me. She said the less I knew, the safer we'd all be." He laughed bitterly. "Lot of good that did." Marcus looked at Lily, still asleep. "We can't push her. Not yet. She's been through too much." "I know." Thomas's voice softened. "She's stronger than she looks. Like her mother." Hayes limped over, lowering himself into a chair with a grimace. "There's something else you should know," he said. "The night James disappeared, I tracked his movements as far as I could. The last confirmed sighting was at a bus station in Helena. And then nothing, until 6 months ago." Marcus went very still. "What are you saying?" Hayes pulled out a worn photograph. It showed a man in his 60s, gray-haired, weathered, standing in front of a fishing boat. "This was taken in Alaska, a town called Ketchikan. Population 3,000. Cold, remote, the kind of place you go when you don't want to be found." Marcus took the photograph. His hands were shaking. He recognized the eyes. Even after 31 years, he recognized the eyes. "My father is alive." "I think so. I've been trying to verify it, but—" Hayes gestured at himself. "The cancer. The limited time. I was going to tell you when you arrived. I thought you deserved to know before I—" He didn't finish. Marcus stared at the photograph. 31 years. His entire life. Everything he believed about himself, about his family, all of it built on a lie. And somewhere in Alaska, the man he'd hated for 3 decades was still breathing. The sun rose over the mountains. Lily woke slowly, rubbing her eyes. Shadow immediately pressed against her tail, wagging weakly. She looked around the cabin at Marcus, at Thomas, at Hayes, with the wary confusion of a child who had learned too early that safety was temporary. "Where are we?" "Somewhere safe," Marcus said. He knelt in front of her. "How are you feeling?" "Cold, tired." She looked past him to Thomas. "Grandpa, are you okay?" "I'm okay, sweetheart." "Are the bad men gone?" Thomas and Marcus exchanged a glance. "Not yet," Marcus said honestly. "But I'm going to make sure they can never hurt you again. Do you believe me?" Lily studied his face. Whatever she found there, it seemed to satisfy her. "Mommy said a soldier would come," she said quietly. "She said if anything bad happened, a soldier would find me and keep me safe." Marcus felt his throat tighten. "Your mom was smart." "She was the smartest." Lily's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't let them fall. "She told me a secret before she went away. She said only I would know. She said to wait for the right person. I'm going to need you to tell me that secret, Lily, when you're ready." Lily looked at him for a long moment. "The teddy bear," she whispered. "She put something inside my teddy bear. She said it would save everyone." The teddy bear was still in the crashed truck, 40 miles away, buried in a snowdrift with Northfield's men probably already searching. Marcus checked his gear. Knife, flashlight, first aid kit. Not nearly enough. "You can't go alone," Hayes said. "I can't take backup. You're in no condition and Thomas needs to stay with Lily. At least take the sat phone. If something goes wrong, you get them out. Both of them. Take them somewhere public, somewhere with witnesses. A church, a police station in another county, somewhere Northfield can't touch them." Hayes grabbed his arm. "Marcus." "Yeah, your father would be proud of you." Marcus didn't answer. He wasn't sure he cared what his father would think. Not yet. The drive back took longer than expected. A new storm was rolling in, lighter than the first, but enough to slow him down. Marcus used the time to think. Northfield Industries. 47 dead from contaminated drugs. A whistleblower murdered and made to look like suicide. A federal judge who'd once been a coward. And somewhere in the middle of it all, a little girl with a teddy bear full of secrets. His phone buzzed. A weak signal, finally. 3 voicemails from his mother. "Marcus, where are you? William's nurse says you never arrived." "Sweetheart, please call me. I'm worried. I just want to know you're safe. Please." He should call her. Tell her. What? That the father she'd mourned and cursed for 30 years might be alive. That everything she'd believed was a lie, not yet. He needed proof first. He needed to understand. He put the phone away. The crash site came into view. The truck was still there, but something was wrong. Fresh tire tracks in the snow. Footprints around the vehicle. Someone had been here. Marcus killed his headlights and pulled off the road. He approached on foot, moving silent, staying low. 2 men stood near the overturned truck. Black SUV parked nearby. They were searching the cab, pulling out bags and boxes, throwing everything into the snow. "It's not here," one of them said. "Must have taken it with him." "Then we find him. Boss says the kid knows where the real evidence is." "You believe that she's like 6 years old." "Doesn't matter what I believe. Matters what the boss thinks, and he thinks we need that girl." Marcus felt something cold settle in his stomach. The teddy bear. It was somewhere in that wreck, and they hadn't found it yet. He waited until both men were facing away. Then he moved. The first man went down without a sound, a chokehold applied with surgical precision. The second turned at the noise, reaching for his weapon. Too slow. Marcus disarmed him in one motion, drove his knee into the man's stomach, and dropped him to the ground. "Who sent you?" Marcus asked quietly. The man gasped, clutching his midsection. "Go to hell." Wrong answer. Marcus applied pressure to a nerve cluster in the man's neck. The technique was technically illegal in 12 countries. It was also very effective. Okay, the man's voice cracked. "Victor Stain. He runs security for Northfield. That's all I know. I swear. How many more are there? I don't know, maybe a dozen. They're searching the whole area." Marcus processed this quickly. A dozen men organized search corporate backing. This wasn't a cleanup crew. This was a hunting party. He knocked the man unconscious and began searching the truck. The teddy bear was wedged under the passenger seat, half hidden by debris. Small, brown, well-loved. And when Marcus felt along the seam in its back, he found a small, hard lump. The USB drive. Catherine Brennan had died for this. Thomas Brennan had run for this. And now Marcus held it in his hand. The sound of engines in the distance. Headlights approaching through the snow. Marcus pocketed the drive and ran. He didn't make it to his truck. They came from 3 directions, SUVs cutting off his escape men, pouring out with flashlights and weapons. Marcus changed course, heading for the tree line. A voice echoed through the night. "Marcus Cole." He stopped. Turned. A man stepped forward from the lead vehicle. Tall, broad-shouldered, moving with the easy confidence of someone who had killed before and would kill again. "I know who you are," the man called out. "Former SEAL Team 7. Decorated veteran. Currently AWOL from a deathbed visit." He smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "My name is Victor Stain. I think you have something that belongs to my employer." "Your employer murders children. My employer makes difficult decisions. There's a difference." "Not from where I'm standing." Stain's smile widened. "I was hoping you'd say that." He raised his hand. The first shot cracked through the air, and Marcus was already moving. The bullet tore through the air where Marcus's head had been half a second before. He hit the ground, rolling snow spraying around him, and came up running. Behind him, shouts erupted. Flashlight beams sliced through the darkness like angry fingers. "Don't kill him. We need to know what he knows." Marcus didn't slow down. The tree line was 30 yards away. 20. 10. Another shot. Bark exploded from a pine trunk inches from his face. He dove into the forest and kept moving, weaving between trees, using the darkness as cover. His lungs burned. His heart hammered against his ribs. The USB drive pressed against his thigh through his pocket. Catherine Brennan's final gift. The thing worth killing for. Worth dying for, too, apparently. Behind him, the sounds of pursuit grew fainter. Stain's men were city boys. He could hear it in the way they crashed through the underbrush, loud and clumsy. They didn't know these mountains. Marcus did. He'd trained here. Bled here. Nearly died here once during a winter survival exercise that went sideways. The forest remembered him. And tonight, it would hide him. He ran for 20 minutes without stopping. When he finally paused to listen, the only sound was his own ragged breathing and the whisper of snow falling through branches. They'd lost him. For now. Marcus pulled out Hayes's satellite phone. His fingers were numb, clumsy with cold. He punched in the number. 3 rings. Then Hayes's voice tight with worry. "Marcus. I got it, the drive, but Stain's people are everywhere." "How many?" "At least a dozen. Maybe more coming." A pause. "Can you make it back?" Marcus looked at the darkness around him. He was 5 miles from the cabin minimum. On foot. In a storm. With armed men hunting him. "Yeah," he said. "I'll make it. Marcus, keep them safe, Will. Whatever happens, keep them safe. He ended the call before Hayes could respond. Then he started walking. The cold was a living thing. It crawled under his clothes, into his bones, wrapped around his chest like a fist. Marcus had survived worse Afghan winter's Arctic training nights when death felt closer than dawn, but that didn't make this easier. He thought about Lily. 6 years old, orphaned, hunted. He thought about Thomas Brennan, the man who'd destroyed his father's life, the man who was trying too late to make amends. He thought about his mother. 30 years of lies, 30 years of believing she'd been abandoned, and somewhere in Alaska, his father was still alive. The thought was a knife in his chest. He didn't know if he wanted to embrace the man or kill him. Maybe both. Maybe neither. Right now, all that mattered was getting back to that cabin. One step at a time, one breath at a time. Marcus Cole had never quit anything in his life. He wasn't about to start now. It took him 4 hours to reach the cabin. By the time he stumbled through the door, he couldn't feel his hands or feet. His lips were cracked. His body shook with violent tremors. Hayes caught him before he fell. Jesus, son, get him by the fire. Thomas, blankets. Now. They lowered him into a chair. Warmth washed over him, painful, at first, then slowly merciful. Someone pressed a cup of hot liquid into his hands. Drink, Hayes ordered. Marcus drank. The heat spread through his chest, thawing something that had frozen solid. The drive, he managed. Later. You almost died out there. The drive will. Hayes studied him for a moment. Then he nodded and took the USB from Marcus's pocket. Thomas, you have a laptop? In my bag. It still works. They gathered around the small screen. Hayes plugged in the drive. For a moment, nothing happened. Then folders began appearing. Dozens of them. Hundreds of files. My God, Thomas whispered. Financial records, internal memos, email chains, medical reports with names and dates and causes of death, video depositions, audio recordings. Catherine Brennan had built a bomb. And now they held the detonator. This is everything, Thomas said, scrolling through the files. Everything she found. The contaminated batches, the falsified safety reports, the payments to regulators. Who else is involved? Thomas opened a folder labeled Payroll. A list of names appeared. State senators, the Helena police chief, 3 FDA officials. His voice dropped. And a federal judge, Richard Carmichael. He dismissed the original lawsuit against Northfield 15 years ago. Anyone we can trust? Thomas shook his head slowly. I don't know anymore. Catherine was careful she only shared pieces with different people. She said if anyone had the whole picture, they'd become a target. She was right, Marcus said. She had the whole picture. And now she's dead. Silence fell over the room. The fire crackled. Outside wind moaned through the trees. Lily's small voice broke the quiet. Is that Mommy's secret? They turned. She stood in the doorway, shadow pressed against her legs. Her eyes were fixed on the laptop screen. Thomas moved to block her view. Sweetheart, you should be sleeping. I heard you talking. She looked at Marcus. Did you find my teddy bear? Marcus reached into his jacket. He'd almost forgotten the bear was still tucked inside, slightly damp, but intact. He held it out to her. Lily took it carefully, pressing it against her chest. Her eyes filled with tears. Mommy gave this to me, she said. She said it would keep me safe. It did, Marcus said quietly. It kept everyone safe. Lily looked at him with an expression far too old for her years. Will the bad men stop now? Marcus wanted to lie. He wanted to promise her sunshine and safety, and a world where little girls didn't have to fear the dark. But she deserved better than lies. Not yet, he said, but I'm going to make them stop. Do you believe me? She studied his face. Then she nodded. Mommy said you would. She said a soldier would come. Before Marcus could respond, Hayes's satellite phone rang. Everyone froze. Hayes answered it slowly. Hello? A pause. His face went pale. Yes, she's here. Who is this? Another pause. Longer this time. I understand. We'll be ready. He ended the call. His hand was trembling. That was Sheriff Diana Reyes, Garrett County. She says 2 men came to the hospital in Helena asking about survivors from a truck accident. They had FBI credentials. And she says the badges were fake. She's been tracking Northfield for years. Her brother died from their contaminated drugs. She wants to help. Marcus shook his head. How do we know we can trust her? We don't. Hayes met his eyes. But right now she's the only law enforcement in 3 counties who isn't on Northfield's payroll. And she's got something we need. What? A contact in the real FBI. An agent named Rosa Martinez. Apparently she's been building a case against Northfield for 5 years, but she never had enough evidence. Marcus looked at the laptop, at the hundreds of files Catherine Brennan had gathered. She does now. They made the call at dawn. Diana Reyes arrived 3 hours later, driving a battered pickup truck with no law enforcement markings. She was 45, sharp-featured, with gray streaking through dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. She wore civilian clothes and carried herself like someone who'd learned early that uniforms didn't always mean safety. Sheriff, Hayes said, opening the door. Not today. She stepped inside, scanning the room with quick, professional eyes. Today, I'm just Diana. The badge stays in the truck. Her gaze landed on Thomas. Judge Brennan. I heard you were dead. Not yet. Your daughter was a good woman. I'm sorry. Thomas nodded but didn't speak. Diana turned to Marcus. You're the SEAL, the one who stopped on the road. That's right. Most people would have kept driving. I'm not most people. Something flickered in her eyes, respect maybe, or recognition. No, I don't suppose you are. She sat down at the table and pulled out a burner phone. I talked to Agent Martinez this morning. She's interested. Very interested. But she needs to see the evidence before she can move. We can send her the files. No. Diana's voice was sharp. Nothing electronic. Northfield has people inside every major server farm in the state. If we transmit those files, they'll know within hours. We need to hand-deliver them. To where? Martinez is in Billings. 8 hours from here, if the roads are clear. Marcus shook his head. Staines' men are still out there. They'll be watching the highways. That's why we're not taking the highways. Diana pulled out a map. There's a back route through the national forest. Logging roads, mostly. It'll take longer, but we won't show up on any cameras or checkpoints. You didn't think I was letting you do this alone, did you? Diana's jaw tightened. My brother was 28 years old. He trusted his doctor. He trusted the prescription. And Northfield killed him as surely as if they'd put a gun to his head. She looked at Thomas. I know what you did, Judge, 15 years ago when you had the chance to put these people away. I know you backed down. Thomas flinched, but didn't look away. I was afraid, he said quietly. They threatened my family, my wife, my daughter. I told myself I was protecting them. And now your daughter is dead. Yes. His voice broke. Now my daughter is dead. Diana was silent for a long moment. Then she reached across the table and placed her hand over his. Then help me end this. Help me make sure no one else dies. Thomas nodded. Tears streamed down his weathered face. I will. Whatever it takes. Marcus watched the exchange. He still wasn't sure if he could forgive Thomas Brennan. Maybe he never would. But right now, forgiveness wasn't the point. Justice was. They left that afternoon. Hayes would stay at the cabin with Lily and Shadow. His condition was too poor for travel, and someone needed to protect the girl. If we're not back in 48 hours, Marcus told him, take her to the church in Clearwater, Pastor Mitchell. He's clean. I served with his son in Afghanistan. And if Staines' people find us first. Marcus pulled a handgun from his bag and pressed it into Hayes's palm. Then you do what you have to do. Hayes looked at the weapon, then at Marcus. Your father would be proud of you, son. I mean that. Don't. Marcus's voice was harder than he intended. Don't talk about him like he's some kind of hero. He left us. Whatever the reason he left us. He left to protect you. I spent 30 years thinking he didn't love me. 30 years watching my mother cry herself to sleep. 30 years trying to become the man he never was. Marcus's hands clenched into fists. And now you're telling me it was all for nothing, that he's been alive this whole time hiding in Alaska while He couldn't finish. The words choked him. Hayes stepped closer. When this is over, he said quietly, you're going to have to make a choice. Hold on to the anger, or let it go. I can't tell you which is right. But I can tell you this, your father spent 30 years in exile, believing he'd never see you again. That's not the choice of a man who didn't love you. That's the choice of a man who loved you too much. Marcus didn't respond. He turned and walked out the door, but Hayes's words followed him into the snow. The first 6 hours passed without incident. Diana drove. Marcus rode shotgun eyes, constantly scanning the tree line. Thomas sat in the back, clutching a waterproof bag that held the laptop and the USB drive. Nobody spoke much. There wasn't much to say. The logging roads were rough, barely maintained, half buried under snow. Several times they had to stop and dig the truck out of drifts. Marcus's body ached from the cold and exhaustion, but he pushed through it. He'd pushed through worse. Around midnight, Diana pulled off the road beside an abandoned ranger station. We need to rest, she said. Even an hour. If we're running on empty when we reach Martinez, we'll make mistakes. Marcus wanted to argue. Every minute they delayed was a minute Staines' people could use to find them. But Diana was right. Exhaustion killed more soldiers than bullets. They went inside. The station was cold and dusty, but it had a wood stove and enough old furniture to serve as beds. Diana started a small fire while Marcus checked the perimeter. When he came back inside, Thomas was sitting alone in the corner, staring at nothing. Marcus sat down across from him. Tell me about my father. And Thomas looked up. What do you want to know? Everything. How you met him, what he was like, why you let him down. Thomas was quiet for a long moment. Then he began to speak. James Cole was the bravest man I ever knew, and the most naive. He leaned back, his eyes distant. I was a young prosecutor in 1994, ambitious, hungry. When James came to me with evidence against Northfield, I thought I'd found my ticket to the top. A major pharmaceutical company exposed for corporate murder. It would have made my career. What happened? Reality happened. Thomas's voice was bitter. Northfield's lawyers were the best money could buy. They tore apart our evidence, found technicalities, threatened witnesses. And then they came to me. What did they say? They said they knew where my daughter went to school. They said accidents happened all the time, car crashes, gas leaks, falls down stairs. They said my wife was beautiful, and it would be a shame if something happened to her face. Thomas met Marcus's eyes. I was 29 years old. Catherine was 3. My wife was pregnant with our second child. I looked at James Cole, and I looked at my family, and I made a choice. You chose them. I chose them. And James paid the price. Marcus felt something shift inside him. Not forgiveness, not yet, but understanding. The beginning of it, at least. Did you ever see him again after? Thomas shook his head. He vanished the week before the trial collapsed. I heard rumors over the years that he'd gone into hiding, that Northfield had gotten to him, that he was dead. I never knew which was true. He's alive. In Alaska. Thomas stared at him. How do you know? Hayes showed me a photograph, recent. He's been there for years. Then, Thomas leaned forward, something like hope flickering in his eyes. Then maybe we can still make this right. If James is alive, if we can find him, combine his testimony with Catherine's evidence, one thing at a time. Marcus stood up. First we get this drive to Martinez. Then we worry about ghosts. But even as he said it, he felt the pull, the need to know. 31 years of questions. Somewhere in Alaska, his father had the answers. They were back on the road before dawn. The final stretch was the most dangerous. They had to leave the logging roads and join the main highway for the last 30 miles into Billings. Diana drove fast, pushing the truck to its limits. Marcus watched the mirrors constantly. Every car that appeared behind them made his pulse spike. Relax, Diana said. We're almost there. I'll relax when this is over. Fair enough. They were 15 miles from Billings when Marcus's phone buzzed. A text from a number he didn't recognize. We have the cabin. We have the girl. Bring us the drive or she dies. You have 2 hours. The world went red. Stop the truck. What? We're almost... Stop the truck. Diana pulled over. Marcus showed her the message. Her face went pale. Oh, God. Marcus was already dialing Hayes's number. It rang once, twice, 3 times. No answer. He tried again. Nothing. Thomas grabbed his shoulder. Marcus. Marcus, look at me. Marcus turned. His hands were shaking. They have her, he said. They have Lily. We don't know that. It could be a bluff. They have Hayes's location. They have my phone number. This isn't a bluff. Marcus's voice cracked. I promised her. I looked that little girl in the eyes and promised her I'd keep her safe. Diana was already turning the truck around. What are you doing? Thomas demanded. Going back. If we go back, we lose everything. Catherine's evidence, the chance to stop Northfield. I don't care about Northfield. Marcus's roar filled the cab. I don't care about evidence or justice or any of it. There's a 6-year-old girl who lost her mother, and I'm not going to let her die because I was too busy playing hero. Silence. Then Diana spoke quietly. There's another way. Both men looked at her. Martinez is 15 miles away. If we can reach her, get the FBI involved, they can mobilize faster than we can drive. Helicopters, strike teams, resources Stain doesn't have. 2 hours isn't enough time. It might be, if we move now. Diana met Marcus's eyes. I know what you're feeling. I felt it when my brother died. The rage, the helplessness, the need to do something, anything. But if you go back there alone, you'll die. And Lily will die anyway. Marcus wanted to argue. Every instinct screamed at him to turn around, to fight, to save that little girl with his own 2 hands. But Diana was right. He knew she was right. Drive, he said. Drive faster than you've ever driven in your life. Diana floored it. The truck's engine screamed as they tore down the highway. 15 miles. 10. 5. Marcus's phone buzzed again. 90 minutes. He didn't respond. They reached the FBI field office at 7:42 a.m. Diana was out of the truck before it stopped moving, badge in hand, shouting for Agent Martinez. Chaos erupted. Agents swarmed. Questions flew. Marcus cut through all of it. "There's a girl," he said, his voice carrying across the room. 6 years old, kidnapped by men working for Northfield Industries. We have evidence that proves they murdered 47 people. If you don't move in the next 90 minutes, she's dead. Everything else can wait. A woman stepped forward, Latina, mid-40s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense expression. "I'm Rosa Martinez. Show me what you have." Thomas handed her the drive. Martinez plugged it into a secure terminal. Her eyes widened as the files began loading. "This is everything," Marcus said. "Names, dates, payments, bodies. Enough to bring down everyone involved. But right now, none of it matters. Right now, only Lily matters." Martinez looked at him. Then she picked up her phone. "This is Agent Martinez. I need a tactical team mobilized immediately. Location is..." She looked at Marcus. He gave her the coordinates for Hayes's cabin. "Coordinates confirmed. We have a hostage situation involving a minor. Suspects are armed and dangerous. This is priority 1. She ended the call. "Helicopters in the air in 10 minutes. We'll have boots on the ground within the hour. I'm going with them. Mr. Cole, I'm going with them." Marcus's voice left no room for argument. "That little girl is alive because I stopped on a frozen road 3 nights ago. I'm not leaving her now." Martinez studied him for a long moment. "Fine, but you follow our lead? Understood?" Marcus nodded. He didn't tell her that if anything happened to Lily, he'd burn Northfield to the ground with his bare hands. He didn't need to. She could see it in his eyes. The helicopter cut through the morning sky like a blade. Marcus sat with his back against the cold metal wall, watching the mountains roll past below. 6 FBI tactical agents surrounded him, checking weapons, adjusting gear. None of them spoke to him. He was a civilian in their world, tolerated, not welcomed. He didn't care. Lily was all that mattered. Agent Martinez's voice crackled through his earpiece. "ETA 12 minutes. We're approaching from the north to avoid detection. Satellite shows 3 vehicles at the cabin. Estimate 8 to 10 hostiles." "What about the girl?" "No visual confirmation, but heat signatures show 2 figures in the main structure that aren't moving with the others. Could be hostages." 2 figures. Hayes and Lily. Please, Marcus thought. Please let them be alive. The helicopter banked sharply. Through the window he could see the cabin, now a small, dark shape against the endless white. Smoke rose from the chimney. Vehicles clustered around it like predators circling prey. 2 minutes to touchdown. Remember, we have a child in there. Controlled fire only. Nobody shoots unless they have a clear target. Marcus checked his borrowed weapon one last time. The FBI hadn't wanted to arm him, but Martinez had overruled them. "If half of what you told me is true," she'd said, "you're the best shooter we've got." She wasn't wrong. The helicopter touched down in a clearing half a mile from the cabin. Marcus was out before the skids fully settled, boots punching through snow. The tactical team fanned out behind him. "Cole, wait." He didn't wait. He couldn't. They moved through the trees in formation. Marcus led the way, navigating by instinct and memory. The same route he'd walked 3 days ago, carrying a dying child in his arms. 3 days. It felt like a lifetime. The cabin came into view through the trees. 2 men stood guard outside, weapons visible. They looked bored, confident. They thought they had all the time in the world. They were wrong. Marcus raised his hand. The team stopped. 2 hostiles at the front door, he whispered into his mic. No visual on the others. We need to know what's inside before we move. Thermal shows 6 more inside. 2 stationary, 4 moving. 6 plus 2. 8 total, just like Martinez estimated. On my signal, the team leader said. We take the guards first, then breach. Cole, you're with second squad. You do not enter until we clear the first room. Marcus nodded. He had no intention of following that order, but there was no point arguing now. 3, 2, 1, go! The suppressed shots were barely louder than coughs. Both guards dropped without a sound. The team moved forward, flowing like water toward the cabin door. Marcus stayed close. Too close. The team leader shot him a look, but didn't stop him. They reached the door. A tactical officer placed a breaching charge. Breach in 3, 2, 1. The door exploded inward. Everything after that happened in fragments. Gunfire, shouting, the sharp chemical smell of smoke grenades filling the air. Marcus pushed through the chaos weapon raised, searching for the one face that mattered. 2 men came at him from the left. He dropped them both without thinking, center mass, just like training. They fell and didn't move. The living room was clear. Kitchen clear. Bedroom. Marcus kicked the door open. Hayes lay on the floor, blood pooling beneath him. His face was gray. His breathing was shallow and wet. Beside him, curled into a ball with her hands over her ears, was Lily. Lily! Her head snapped up. Terror filled her eyes, then recognition. Marcus! She launched herself at him, small arms wrapping around his neck with desperate strength. He caught her, held her, felt her whole body shaking against his chest. I've got you, he said. I've got you. You're safe now. They hurt Shadow. They hurt Grandpa Will. I tried to help, but I couldn't. Shh. It's okay. You did good. You did so good. He looked at Hayes. The old soldier's eyes were open, watching him. Will. Got careless. Hayes coughed, and blood flecked his lips. They came fast. Couldn't. Don't talk. We're getting you out of here. No. Hayes's hand found Marcus's arm, gripping with surprising strength. No time. Listen to me. Will, your father. Hayes's voice was fading. Ketchikan, the fishing boat, called Northern Light. Find him. Tell him I'm sorry I couldn't. His grip loosened. Will. But William Hayes was already gone. Marcus knelt there. Lily still clutched to his chest, staring at the man who had been more of a father to him than anyone. The man who had saved his life in Afghanistan. The man who had kept his father's secret for 30 years. Gone. Just like that. Marcus. Agent Martinez's voice in his ear. We've secured the building. 7 hostiles down, 1 in custody. But we have a problem. Marcus didn't answer. He couldn't speak. Marcus Stain isn't here. Repeat, Victor Stain is not among the captured or killed. He's in the wind. That got through. Marcus stood slowly, Lily still in his arms. His body felt numb. His mind felt sharp as broken glass. He ran. Looks like he left before we arrived. Must have had a spotter watching the approach. We're setting up a perimeter, but in this terrain, he's gone. For now. We'll find him. Marcus looked down at Hayes's body one last time. Yes, he said quietly. We will. They evacuated by helicopter. Lily refused to let go of Marcus, and he didn't try to make her. She'd seen too much. Lost too much. If holding on to him made her feel safe, he would hold her until his arms gave out. Thomas was waiting when they landed. He ran toward them, face twisted with relief and grief. Lily. Oh God, Lily. Grandpa. She finally released Marcus, throwing herself into Thomas's arms. The old man collapsed to his knees, clutching her like she might disappear. "I'm sorry," he sobbed. "I'm so sorry. I should have protected you. I should have— It's okay, Grandpa. Marcus saved me, just like Mommy said." Thomas looked up at Marcus. Tears streamed down his weathered face. "Thank you. I can't. Hayes is dead." The words came out flat, empty. Thomas's face crumpled. "Oh no, no, no. Stain got away, but we got everyone else." Marcus's voice was mechanical now, operating on autopilot. "Martinez has the evidence. The FBI is moving on Northfield as we speak. It's over. Marcus, I need to make a phone call." He walked away before Thomas could respond, found a quiet corner, pulled out his phone. His mother answered on the second ring. "Marcus! Oh, thank God. I've been so worried." William's nurse called and said there was some kind of emergency at the cabin and nobody could reach you and— "Mom!" Something in his voice stopped her. "Marcus, what's wrong?" He closed his eyes. The words felt impossible, but she deserved to hear them from him. "William's dead, Mom. There was— some bad people came. He didn't make it." Silence on the other end. He could hear her breathing, quick and shallow. "Oh, Marcus. Oh, sweetheart. I'm so sorry." "There's something else." He paused. "How do you say something like this? How do you reshape 30 years of grief in a single sentence? It's about Dad. What about your father? He didn't leave us, Mom. He didn't run away with another woman. He was a whistleblower. He found evidence of corporate murder, and when he tried to expose it, they made him disappear. They told everyone he'd abandoned us, but it was a lie. All of it was a lie." The silence stretched longer this time. "Mom, how do you know this?" "William told me. Before he died. He'd been tracking Dad for years. He found him." "Found him, Marcus? What are you saying?" "Dad's alive. He's been living in Alaska, hiding, for 30 years. He heard a sound on the other end. A sob, maybe. Or a gasp. Something torn from deep inside. "That's impossible." "I know it sounds— It's impossible, Marcus. I mourned him. I buried an empty coffin because they couldn't find his body. I raised you alone. I worked 2 jobs. I cried myself to sleep for years because I thought he didn't love us enough to stay." "I know, Mom. I know. And now you're telling me he was alive all this time, that he could have come back. He couldn't. They would have killed all of us if he'd tried. He stayed away to protect us." Another sob. Louder this time. "I don't know if I can forgive him for that." "You don't have to. Not right now. Maybe not ever." Marcus leaned against the wall, suddenly exhausted. I wanted you to know. Before you heard it somewhere else." "Are you going to find him?" The question hung in the air. "I don't know," Marcus said honestly. "Part of me wants to. Part of me wants to walk away and pretend I never learned any of this." "What does your heart say?" He thought about Lily, about the choice he'd made on that frozen road, about stopping when everyone else would have kept driving. "My heart says I need answers. I need to look him in the eyes and understand." "Then go." His mother's voice was stronger now, steadier. "Find him. Get your answers. And then come home and tell me everything." "Mom, I love you, Marcus. Whatever you find, whatever happens, I love you. Never forget that." "I love you too, Mom." He ended the call and stood there for a long moment, phone pressed against his forehead. Footsteps approached. He didn't look up. "The FBI is transporting the surviving hostiles to federal custody," Martinez said. "We've already got arrest warrants for 14 Northfield executives, including the CEO. This is going to be the biggest corporate prosecution in 20 years." "Good. You saved a lot of lives today, Mr. Cole. A lot of families are going to get justice because of what you did. I lost someone too. I know. I'm sorry about Sergeant Hayes. By all accounts, he was a good man. Marcus finally looked up. Did you know about my father? Martinez hesitated. I had suspicions. James Cole's name came up in our investigation years ago, but we could never confirm anything. There were rumors he'd survived, gone underground, but nobody thought to mention it to his family. It wasn't confirmed. We didn't want to give false hope. Marcus laughed bitterly. False hope, right. He pushed off the wall and walked past her. Mr. Cole, where are you going? Alaska. Martinez caught his arm. You need to stay for debriefing. There's paperwork testimony. I'll be back, but right now I have somewhere else I need to be. Stain is still out there. If he finds out you're traveling alone, then he'll find out what happens when he comes for me instead of a 6-year-old girl. Marcus met her eyes. I'm done hiding. I'm done waiting. Either arrest me or let me go. Martinez studied him for a long moment. Then she released his arm. Ketchikan, she said quietly. Small town. Fishing community. There's a man there who runs charter boats. Goes by the name John Walker. He matches your father's description. Marcus stared at her. You knew? I suspected. Like I said, we couldn't confirm. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a card. My direct number. If you find him, call me. His testimony could seal this case forever. Marcus took the card, nodded. One more thing, Martinez said. The girl, Lily. She's been asking for you. She won't let anyone else near her except her grandfather. Marcus closed his eyes. Another tie. Another responsibility. Another person who needed him. Tell her I'll be back, he said. Tell her I promise. He found Thomas and Lily in a small waiting room. Shadow lay at Lily's feet, bandaged but alive. The dog's tail thumped weakly when Marcus entered. You're leaving. Thomas's voice was flat. I have to find him. I know. Thomas stood slowly, his old bones creaking. I know where the boat docks, the Northern Light. It's in the harbor on the south side of town. He takes it out every morning at dawn and comes back at sunset. Marcus frowned. How do you know that? Thomas's face twisted with something like shame. Because I've been sending him money, every month for 30 years. Anonymous transfers to an offshore account. It was the only thing I could do. The only way I could, I don't know, atone. You've known where he was this whole time. I knew he was alive. I knew he was hiding. I didn't know specifics until a few years ago when I hired someone to find him. Thomas met Marcus's eyes. I wanted to tell you, so many times, but I was afraid. Afraid of what? That you'd kill me. That you'd tell the world what I'd done. That you'd hate me forever. He laughed, a broken sound. You probably do anyway. Marcus thought about it. The rage was still there, buried deep. The betrayal, the years of lies. But he also thought about Lily, about how Thomas had run through a blizzard to protect her, about the tears on his face when they'd reunited. I don't hate you, Marcus said slowly. I don't trust you. I'm not sure I'll ever trust you, but I don't hate you. Thomas nodded. It was enough, more than he deserved. Lily stood up and walked to Marcus. She reached into her pocket and pulled out something small. A photograph creased and worn. Mommy gave me this, she said. She said it was important. She said to give it to the soldier when he came. Marcus took the photograph. His breath caught. It showed two men standing side by side. One was Thomas, 30 years younger. The other was a man with Marcus's eyes, Marcus's jaw, Marcus's way of standing. James Cole, his father. And behind them, barely visible, was a third figure. a woman with red hair and a fierce expression. "Who's this?" Marcus pointed to the woman. Thomas went pale. That's Margaret Chen. She was the lead prosecutor before me. When I backed out, she tried to continue the case alone." "What happened to her?" "She disappeared. A week before James did. Everyone assumed Northfield got to her too." Marcus stared at the photograph. 3 people who had tried to bring down Northfield. 2 had vanished. 1 had betrayed them all. And now 30 years later, the circle was closing. "I'm going to find him," Marcus said. "And I'm going to find out what really happened to Margaret Chen. All of it." Lily tugged at his sleeve. "Will you come back?" He knelt down to her level. This little girl who had lost everything. This little girl who still believed in soldiers and promises and happy endings. "I will always come back," he said. "Do you believe me?" She nodded solemnly. "Then wait for me. Take care of your grandpa. And when I return, I'll tell you everything." She hugged him one last time. And then Marcus Cole walked out the door and headed for Alaska. The flight took 8 hours. Marcus spent most of it staring out the window, watching the landscape change beneath him. Mountains gave way to forests. Forests gave way to coastline. America scrolling past like a memory. He thought about his mother, about the life she'd built from the ashes of abandonment, about the strength it must have taken to raise a son alone, never knowing the truth. He thought about Hayes, about the guilt the old soldier had carried for 3 decades, about the secrets he'd kept trying to protect everyone from a truth that might have set them free. He thought about his father, the man he'd hated for 31 years, the man who might have been a hero all along. What do you say to someone like that? What do you ask? Why did you leave? Why didn't you come back? Did you ever think about me? Did you ever love me? The questions circled in his head, unanswerable. Maybe they always would be. The plane landed at Ketchikan International just before sunset. Marcus collected his single bag and walked out into the cold Alaskan air. The town was small, quieter than he expected. Fishing boats bobbed in the harbor, their lights reflecting off dark water. He found a motel, checked in under a false name, lay on the bed and stared at the ceiling until exhaustion finally dragged him under. He dreamed of snow, of a little girl with blue lips, of a voice whispering, "Let me carry you." He woke before dawn. The harbor was still dark when he arrived. A few early risers moved along the docks, preparing their boats. Marcus walked slowly, reading names on hulls. Sea Spirit, Alaska Queen, Lucky Star. And there at the far end of the dock, a modest fishing vessel with peeling paint and well-worn nets. Northern Light. A man stood on the deck, coiling rope. Tall, weathered, gray-haired. He moved with the careful economy of someone who had learned to conserve energy over years of hard labor. Marcus stopped at the edge of the dock. The man looked up. Their eyes met. And Marcus saw his own face 30 years older. The same jaw, the same brow, the same way of standing like a soldier even in civilian clothes. James Cole set down the rope. His hands were trembling. "Hello, son," he said quietly. Marcus didn't move. Couldn't move. "You know who I am?" "I've always known. I've watched you from a distance since you were 18. Every graduation, every deployment ceremony, every medal they pinned on your chest." James's voice cracked. "I was always there. I just couldn't be there." "Why? Because they would have killed you. Your mother. Everyone I loved." James stepped closer, stopping at the edge of the boat. They made that very clear when they took me. If I ever made contact, if I ever came back, they would destroy everything I'd left behind. So you just gave up? I survived. There's a difference. James's eyes glistened. I survived so that someday maybe I could see you again. Even if it was only from across a crowded room. Even if you never knew I was there. Marcus felt something break inside him. 30 years of anger. 30 years of grief. 30 years of an empty space where a father should have been. I needed you, he said, his voice raw. Do you understand that I needed you, and you weren't there? I know. I joined the SEALs because I wanted to become someone you'd be proud of. Someone strong, someone who didn't run away. I know. And the whole time you were here, catching fish, living your life, while Mom worked herself to death, and I grew up thinking my own father didn't love me. James's face crumpled. I loved you every single day, he said. Every single hour. There wasn't a moment I didn't think about you. But love wasn't enough. Love couldn't keep you safe. Only distance could do that. Marcus stood there trembling. His whole body felt like it might fly apart. Hayes is dead, he said. William Hayes. He died protecting a little girl from the same people who took you from us. James closed his eyes. Pain crossed his features like a wave. Will was a good man, better than I deserved. He told me to find you. His last words were about you. What did he say? He said he was sorry. Sorry he couldn't save you. James was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was barely a whisper. I'm the one who should be sorry. I'm the one who's been hiding while everyone else paid the price for my choices. He stepped off the boat onto the dock, closer now, close enough to touch. I don't expect you to forgive me, James said. I don't expect anything. But if you'll let me, I'd like to try to explain. Everything. From the beginning. Marcus looked at this man. This stranger with his face. This ghost who had haunted his entire life. I came here for answers, he said. So talk. James nodded slowly. Then come aboard. It's a long story, and it starts with a woman named Margaret Chen. Marcus stepped onto the northern light. The deck swayed gently beneath his feet. His father moved to the small cabin, gesturing for him to follow. Inside, the space was cramped but orderly. A narrow bunk, a small table bolted to the floor. Maps pinned to every wall. James sat down heavily. He looked older up close. Tired in a way that went beyond physical exhaustion. Margaret Chen, Marcus said. Who was she? The bravest woman I ever knew. James's voice was rough. She was a federal prosecutor. Young, ambitious, fearless. When I brought her the evidence against Northfield, she didn't hesitate. She said she'd burn them to the ground. What happened? We got close. Too close. We had documents, witnesses, everything we needed. James's hands clenched on the table. Then the witnesses started dying. Car accidents, heart attacks, a house fire that killed a family of 4. They murdered them. Systematically, one by one, until Margaret and I were the only ones left who knew the whole truth. Marcus leaned forward. The photograph. The one Lily gave me. You, Thomas, and Margaret. When was that taken? 3 days before everything fell apart. We were celebrating. We thought we'd won. James laughed bitterly. We were fools. Thomas said Margaret disappeared. He assumed Northfield got to her. Thomas assumed wrong. James met his son's eyes. Margaret didn't disappear. She went underground. Same as me. We had a plan if things went bad, we'd both vanish. Separate directions. No contact. We'd wait until it was safe to surface. Marcus's heart stopped. She's alive? As of 6 months ago, yes. She sends me a signal once a year. A coded message through a network we set up. Christmas Eve. Every Christmas Eve for 30 years. Where is she? I don't know exactly. Somewhere in Canada, I think. She moves constantly, never stays in one place more than a few months. Marcus stood up abruptly. The cabin felt too small, too close. All this time, he said. All this time, there were 2 people who could have brought Northfield down. And you just hid. We survived. People died, 47 people from that contaminated drug. And God knows how many before that. Marcus's voice rose. Catherine Brennan spent years building a case. She got killed for it. William Hayes died protecting her daughter, and you were up here catching fish. James didn't flinch. You think I don't know that? You think I don't carry every single one of those deaths? Then why didn't you do something? Because doing something would have gotten your mother killed. Would have gotten you killed? James stood now, facing his son. They made that very clear, Marcus. They showed me photographs of you at school, of your mother at work. They knew where you slept, what you ate, who your friends were. They said if I ever surfaced, they'd start with your mother's fingers, then her eyes, then they'd make me watch while they finished her. Marcus stepped back. His father's words hit him like blows. I chose, James continued, his voice breaking. I chose your life over justice. I chose to let guilty men walk free so my family could live. Maybe that makes me a coward. Maybe it makes me a monster. But I would make the same choice again, every single time. Silence filled the cabin. The boat rocked gently. Somewhere outside, a seagull cried. They're going down now, Marcus said finally. Northfield, the FBI has everything. Catherine Brennan's evidence combined with what you and Margaret gathered, it's over. James shook his head slowly. It's not over until Victor Stain is in custody. He's Northfield's cleaner, has been for 30 years. He's the one who made the witnesses disappear. He's the one who threatened your mother. He escaped. The FBI is hunting him. They won't find him, not unless he wants to be found. James moved to one of the maps on the wall. Stain has bolt holes everywhere. Safe houses, false identities, escape routes. I know because I spent years tracking him. You tracked him. I had to know where the threat was. Had to know if he was getting close to you or your mother. James tapped a location on the map. His primary safe house is here, outside Seattle. An abandoned warehouse he converted years ago. If he's running, that's where he'll go. Marcus stared at the map. Seattle was a 12-hour drive, or a 2-hour flight. I need to call Martinez. Your FBI contact, James nodded. Good, but Marcus Stain won't go quietly. He's killed too many people to surrender. He knows what's waiting for him. Then we make sure he doesn't have a choice. Marcus pulled out his phone. His hands were steady now. The anger was still there, buried deep, but something else had risen alongside it. Purpose. He dialed Martinez's number. Cole, I was about to call you. We have a situation. Stain. He surfaced 2 hours ago, hit the Northfield CEO's private residence, killed 3 security guards and took the CEO hostage. We think he's heading for the border. Seattle. He has a safe house outside Seattle. How do you know that? I'm looking at a map that shows all of his bolt holes. My father tracked him for 30 years. A pause. Your father, James Cole. He's alive. He's with me right now. The silence on the other end stretched for several seconds. Christ, Martinez finally said. This case just keeps getting bigger. There's more. Margaret Chen, the prosecutor who disappeared 30 years ago. She's alive too, somewhere in Canada. Cole, if we can get both of them to testify. One thing at a time. Right now, Stain is the priority. I can give you the Seattle location, but I want to be there when you take him down. Absolutely not. This is a federal operation. He killed William Hayes. He tried to kill a 6-year-old girl. He's been threatening my family for 3 decades. Marcus's voice hardened. I'm going to be there, Martinez, with your blessing or without it. Another pause, then a sigh. Fine, but you follow my lead. And if you get yourself killed, I'm not writing the report. Fair enough? He ended the call and turned to his father. They're mobilizing now. We can be in Seattle by tonight. You're coming with me. Marcus met his father's eyes. You've been hiding long enough. It's time to finish this. James was quiet for a long moment. Something shifted in his face, fear giving way to something older, harder. I've dreamed about this, he said quietly. For 30 years I've dreamed about watching Stain pay for what he did. Then let's make it happen. They flew out of Ketchikan that afternoon. Commercial flight to Seattle, then a rental car to the FBI staging area. The whole way, Marcus wrestled with questions he couldn't answer. His father sat beside him, silent, staring out the window at clouds. 31 years of silence. 31 years of believing he'd been abandoned. And now here they were, side by side, heading into danger together. You said you watched me, Marcus said suddenly. Graduations? Deployments? You were there? James nodded without looking away from the window. Every single one. I had a fake ID, different disguises. I'd stand in the back, leave before anyone noticed. His voice was distant. When you made senior chief, I cried. Right there in the parking lot, some woman asked if I was okay. What did you tell her? That my son had just made me the proudest father in the world. Marcus felt something crack inside his chest. Why didn't you approach me just once, even if you couldn't stay? Because I wouldn't have been able to leave again. James finally turned to face him. One moment with you, one real moment, and I would have destroyed everything I'd sacrificed to protect you. I couldn't risk it. I couldn't risk you. So you just suffered alone for 30 years. Parents do unimaginable things for their children. You'll understand that someday. Marcus thought about Lily, about the promise he'd made to come back, about the fierce protective instinct that had seized him the moment he found her in the snow. Maybe he already understood. Mom needs to know, he said, about all of this. She deserves to hear it from you. I know. When this is over, I'll go to her. If she'll see me. She will. She's angry, but she'll see you. You sound certain. I know my mother. She spent 30 years hating a ghost. Now she has the chance to understand why the ghost left. Marcus paused. That's more than most people get. They landed in Seattle as the sun began to set. A black SUV was waiting on the tarmac, FBI, no markings. Martinez stood beside it, arms crossed. James Cole, she said, extending her hand. You're supposed to be dead. Rumors of my demise were greatly encouraged. James shook her hand. I believe you have a warrant with my name on it. Obstruction of justice, failure to appear as a witness. I have several warrants with your name on them, but right now I'm more interested in the man who killed my partner 6 years ago. Marcus looked at her sharply. Stain killed your partner. Agent Derek Okoye. He got too close to Northfield's operation in 2019. Stain made it look like a carjacking gone wrong. Martinez's jaw tightened. So you see, Mr. Cole, we all have reasons to want this man in custody. In custody? James's voice was cold. Or in the ground? In custody. I'm not interested in making him a martyr. Martinez opened the SUV door. Get in. We brief in 15 minutes. The staging area was a warehouse 3 miles from Stain's safe house. Tactical teams moved with quiet efficiency, checking gear, reviewing maps. The air hummed with controlled tension. Martinez led them to a command center set up in the back. Screens showed satellite imagery, thermal readings, building schematics. Here's what we know, she said. Stain arrived 2 hours ago with the Northfield CEO, Richard Vaughn. 3 other individuals entered with them. We're assuming private security. Total of 5 hostiles. Weapons. We have to assume military grade. Stain has access to Northfield's private armory. Martinez pointed to the screen. The building has 2 entrances. Main door here, loading dock here. No windows on the ground floor. Limited visibility inside. Thermal. Shows all 5 in the main area. Vaughn appears to be restrained. He's not moving independently. Marcus studied the layout. Years of training kicked in automatically, analyzing angles, identifying choke points, calculating risk. What's your approach? Simultaneous breach. Alpha team through the front. Bravo through the loading dock. Flashbangs first, then controlled entry. Martinez looked at him. You're with Alpha team. Your father stays here. No. James stepped forward. I'm going in. Mr. Cole, with all due respect, you're a 68-year-old civilian who hasn't... I've spent 30 years preparing for this moment. I know Stain better than anyone alive. I know how he thinks, how he reacts, what he'll do when cornered. James's voice was steel. You can either use that knowledge or you can explain to your bosses why the operation failed. Martinez stared at him. Then she turned to Marcus. Does stubbornness run in your family, like a genetic disorder? She shook her head, but there was almost a smile at the corner of her mouth. Fine, but you stay behind the tactical team, both of you. If either of you gets in the way, I'll have you arrested. Understood. They geared up in silence. Kevlar vest, tactical radio, borrowed sidearm. Marcus checked the weapon 3 times, habit, instinct, routine. His father moved beside him, adjusting his own vest. For a moment, they worked in parallel mirror images, separated by decades. Marcus, yeah, whatever happens in there, I want you to know I'm proud of you. I always have been, even when I couldn't say it. Marcus paused. The words hung between them, fragile and enormous. Save it, he said finally. Tell me again when this is over. And if it doesn't end well, then I'll be too dead to care. Marcus met his father's eyes. But it will end well. We didn't come this far to fail. The signal came at 9:47 p.m. All teams, this is command. Prepare to breach. On my mark. 3, 2, 1. Execute. The night exploded into motion. Alpha team hit the front door with a battering ram. The metal shrieked as it gave way. Flashbangs arced through the opening, followed by the deafening crack of detonation. Marcus moved with the team muscle memory taking over. Clear left, clear right. Advance. Gunfire erupted from deeper inside. Someone screamed, hostile or friendly, impossible to tell. Contact front 2 shooters, center of the room. The tactical team returned fire in controlled bursts. One of the shooters dropped. The second took cover behind a support pillar. Bravo team status. Engaged at the loading dock. Heavy resistance. We've got one down. Marcus pushed forward. His father stayed close behind, moving with surprising agility for his age. Through the smoke and chaos, Marcus spotted Stain. The man was dragging Richard Vaughn toward a back door, using the CEO as a human shield. A handgun pressed against Vaughn's temple. Stain! The man turned. For a moment their eyes met across the chaos. Victor Stain smiled. Marcus Cole, he called out. The hero himself. I was hoping we'd meet again. Let him go. It's over. It's never over. Not for men like us. Stain pressed the gun harder against von Swans's head. This man signed the orders that killed 47 people. He deserves to die. Maybe he does. But not like this, not by your hand. Why not? Someone has to hold them accountable. The courts are bought. Stain's voice cracked. They've always been bought. The only justice that matters is the kind you take for yourself. Marcus took a step closer. That's what you told yourself, isn't it? Every time you killed someone, every witness, every whistleblower, every innocent person who got in the way. You were just delivering justice. I was surviving. Same as you. Same as your father. Stain's eyes flicked to James, standing behind Marcus. Hello, James. It's been a long time. Not long enough, James said quietly. Does it hurt seeing your son turned into exactly what you ran away from, a killer? A weapon. Stain laughed. The only difference is he kills for the government. I kill for the highest bidder. I'm nothing like you. Keep telling yourself that. Stain began backing toward the door, dragging Vaughn with him. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to walk out of here. If anyone follows me, this man dies. If anyone tries to stop me, this man dies. And then what? Where do you go? Every law enforcement agency in the country is hunting you. I have resources. I have friends. I have 30 years of leverage on people you've never heard of. Stain's smile widened. This isn't my first time disappearing. He was almost to the door now. In seconds, he'd be gone, another ghost, another 30 years of shadow. Marcus couldn't let that happen. Stain. What? You killed William Hayes, a man who spent his whole life serving this country, a man who was dying anyway, and you put a bullet in him while a 6-year-old girl watched. Something flickered in Stain's eyes. Not guilt, he was too far gone for guilt. But something. He was in the way. He was my father, the man who actually raised me, the man who taught me everything I know. Marcus took another step. You took him from me, the same way you took James from my mother, the same way you've taken someone from every person whose life you've touched. Stay back, but here's the thing, Stain. You forgot something important. What's that? Marcus's eyes went cold. You forgot that Hayes trained me, and the first thing he taught me was never let the enemy control the field. He dropped to one knee and fired in a single motion. The bullet caught Stain in the shoulder exactly where Marcus aimed. The impact spun him sideways, breaking his grip on Vaughn. James moved before anyone else could react. He tackled Stain from the side, driving them both to the ground. The gun flew from Stain's hand. Get off me! 30 years, James growled, pinning Stain's arms. 30 years you stole from me, from my family, from everyone you ever touched. I'll kill you. No. James leaned close, his voice dropping to a whisper. You'll rot in a cell. You'll grow old behind bars. You'll die alone, forgotten, knowing that everything you did was for nothing. Tactical officers swarmed in, pulling James back, securing Stain with zip ties. Marcus stood over the man who had haunted his family for 3 decades. Victor Stain, you're under arrest for murder, kidnapping, conspiracy, and about 40 other charges we'll figure out later. Stain looked up at him. Blood seeped from his shoulder, but the smile never left his face. This isn't over, Cole. Men like me don't stay locked up. Marcus knelt down, bringing his face close to Stain's. Men like you die in prison, alone, and nobody mourns them. He stood and walked away without looking back. Outside, the night air hit him like a blessing. Cool, clean, free. His father joined him, breathing hard. "That was a hell of a shot." "Hayes taught me well." "He did." James looked at the building where Stain was being loaded into an armored transport. "It's really over. The hard part. The rest, the trials, the testimony, the rebuilding, that's just paperwork. Paperwork with your father's name on it." "Yeah." Marcus turned to face him. "Are you ready for that?" James was quiet for a long moment. "I've been hiding for 30 years. I'm tired, Marcus, tired of running, tired of being alone." He met his son's eyes. "I'm ready to come home. Whatever that means. Whatever it costs." Marcus thought about his mother waiting in Colorado, about Lily and Thomas, about the family that had somehow formed from tragedy and loss. "Then let's go home," he said. "Together." The drive from Seattle to Colorado took 18 hours. Marcus and James took turns at the wheel, stopping only for gas and coffee. They didn't talk much. 30 years of silence couldn't be filled in a single car ride. But the quiet between them had changed. It wasn't hostile anymore. It wasn't empty. It was waiting. Somewhere around Wyoming, James finally spoke. "What's she like now, your mother?" Marcus kept his eyes on the road. "Older, tired, but still the strongest person I've ever known?" "She always was." "She never remarried, never even dated as far as I know?" Marcus's hands tightened on the wheel. "She said no one could compare to the man who broke her heart." James was silent for a long moment. "I wrote her letters," he said quietly. "Hundreds of them, every birthday, every anniversary, every Christmas. I never sent them. Why not? Because they weren't enough. Nothing I could put into words was enough to explain why I left, why I stayed away." He paused. "I still have them, every single one, in a box in my cabin. She might want to read them someday. Or she might burn them. I'd deserve that." Marcus didn't argue. He couldn't. They crossed into Colorado as the sun began to set. The mountains rose around them, familiar and foreign at the same time. Marcus had grown up in these valleys, learned to hunt and fish and survive in these woods. But he'd never brought his father here before. "It's beautiful," James said softly. "Mom chose it. After you left, she moved us out here. Said she needed somewhere quiet, somewhere she could heal." "Did she heal?" "I don't think you ever really heal from something like that. You just learn to carry it differently." They pulled into the driveway of a small house at the edge of town, just as the last light faded from the sky. A porch light glowed warm and yellow. Through the window, Marcus could see movement inside. His mother was home. "I should go first," Marcus said. "Prepare her." "No," James opened the door. "She's waited 30 years. She shouldn't have to wait another minute." He walked toward the house. Marcus followed, heart pounding. The front door opened before they reached it. Helen Cole stood in the doorway. She was smaller than Marcus remembered age, and illness had diminished her physically. But her eyes were the same. Sharp, knowing, undeceived. She saw James and went absolutely still. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Then Helen stepped forward. Her hand came up trembling and touched James's face. His cheek, his jaw, the lines around his eyes. "You're real," she whispered. "I'm real." "You're alive." "I'm alive." Her hand dropped, and then she slapped him, hard enough to turn his head, hard enough to leave a mark that would last for days. "That's for leaving." James didn't flinch. "I deserved that." "You deserve worse." Her voice cracked. 30 years, James. 30 years I thought you were dead. Or worse, that you'd chosen someone else. Something else. Anything but us. I know. Do you have any idea what it was like raising him alone, working double shifts, lying awake at night wondering what I did wrong, why I wasn't enough? You were always enough. James's voice broke. You were everything. That's why I left. Because staying would have gotten you killed. Both of you. Then you should have let them kill us. At least we would have been together. The words hung in the air, raw and terrible. James reached out, slowly. Helen flinched, but didn't pull away. His hands cupped her face, thumbs brushing away tears she hadn't realized she was crying. I'm sorry, he said. I'm sorry I wasn't brave enough to stay. I'm sorry I wasn't strong enough to fight. I'm sorry for every birthday I missed, every Christmas I spent alone, every night you cried yourself to sleep because of me. Sorry isn't enough. I know. It'll never be enough. He leaned forward, pressing his forehead against hers. But I'm here now. I'm not leaving again. Whatever you need from me, time-space answers, I'll give it. I'll spend whatever years I have left trying to make this right. Helen's hands came up to grip his wrists. For a moment, Marcus thought she would push him away. Instead, she pulled him closer. You're an idiot, she sobbed into his chest. A stupid, selfish, cowardly idiot. I know. I hate you. I know. I never stopped loving you. James's arms wrapped around her, holding her like she might disappear. I never stopped either. Not for a single day. Marcus stood on the porch, watching his parents embrace for the first time in 31 years. Something in his chest loosened a knot he hadn't known was there. He'd spent his whole life being the man of the house, the protector, the one who held everything together. Maybe now, finally, he could just be their son. The first week was the hardest. James moved into the guest room. He and Helen circled each other like wounded animals drawn together by old love, kept apart by old pain. Some days they talked for hours. Some days they couldn't be in the same room. Marcus gave them space. He had other matters to attend to. Agent Martinez called on the third day. The grand jury handed down indictments, 14 Northfield executives, including Vaughn, 6 government officials. Stain is being held without bail. What about the cover-up, the people who helped them hide for 30 years? We're still building those cases. Your father's testimony will be crucial, and if we can find Margaret Chen, I'm working on it. He was. Every spare hour Marcus spent reaching out through the network James had described. Coded messages through obscure forums, dead drops in small-town libraries, a system designed to survive exactly this kind of moment. On the 8th day, he got a response. A single line of text on an encrypted channel, I'm ready to come home. 2 weeks later, Margaret Chen walked into the FBI field office in Denver. She was 70 years old, gray-haired, and walked with a cane. But her eyes were fierce as ever. You must be Marcus, she said, extending her hand. You look exactly like your father. It's almost frightening. He said the same thing about me. He's a perceptive man. Stupid, but perceptive. She smiled slightly. Where is he? With my mother. They're working things out. I imagine that's quite a process. You could say that. Margaret sat down slowly, favoring her left hip. I've been waiting 30 years for this moment. I thought I'd feel victorious, vindicated. She shook her head. Mostly I just feel tired. Then why did you come? Because Catherine Brennan deserved better. Because 47 people deserved better. Because every day I spent hiding was a day those responsible walked free. Her jaw tightened. And because I made a promise to your father, We said we'd see this through together, no matter how long it took. He kept that promise, in his own way. I know. So did I. She looked at Marcus with something like approval. Now let's finish what we started. The trials began in spring. Victor Stain went first. The prosecution presented 3 decades of evidence murders, cover-ups, intimidation, corruption. Witnesses came forward from across the country, people who had lived in fear for years, finally free to speak. James testified for 2 days. He described how Northfield had threatened his family, how they'd made him watch surveillance footage of Marcus at school, how they'd promised to murder Helen slowly if he ever surfaced. The courtroom was silent when he finished. Helen sat in the gallery watching. When James stepped down from the stand, their eyes met across the room. She nodded once, a small gesture that carried the weight of 30 years. Stain was convicted on 18 counts of murder. He received life without parole. When the verdict came down, Marcus felt nothing. No triumph, no satisfaction, just a hollow sense of completion. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. But it was something. Thomas Brennan testified too. He admitted his role in the original cover-up, how he'd backed down under threat, how his cowardice had allowed Northfield to operate unchecked for decades. The judge took his cooperation into account. No charges were filed, but Thomas's reputation was destroyed. The newspapers called him a coward. Old colleagues turned their backs. The career he'd spent a lifetime building crumbled to nothing. He didn't seem to care. "I deserve worse," he told Marcus after the hearings. "Catherine is dead because of me. Your father lost 30 years because of me. If public shame is all I get, I'm getting off easy." "What will you do now?" "Raise my granddaughter. Try to be better." Thomas looked toward the window where Lily was playing with Shadow in the yard. "Catherine asked me once what I wanted my legacy to be. I didn't have an answer then. I do now. What is it? Her, Lily, the woman she'll become." His eyes glistened. "That's all that matters anymore." Marcus watched Lily throw a ball for Shadow. The dog bounded after it, limping slightly but determined. The little girl laughed, a sound that had become increasingly common over the past weeks. "She needs a father," Marcus said quietly. Thomas turned to look at him. "What? Lily. She needs someone stable. Someone who'll be there every day. Not just a grandfather who visits." Marcus met the old man's eyes. "I want to adopt her." Thomas was silent for a long moment. Something passed across his face, surprise, maybe, or hope. "You'd do that? I made her a promise. I told her I'd always come back, that I'd keep her safe." Marcus's voice was firm. "I intend to keep that promise, for the rest of her life." "Marcus, I don't know what to say." "Say yes." Thomas's face crumpled. Tears streamed down his weathered cheeks. "Yes," he whispered. "Yes. God, yes." The adoption was finalized 3 months later. Lily Cole. The name looked strange on paper but felt right when Marcus said it aloud. "Am I really yours now?" Lily asked, clutching the official documents like a treasure. "Really and truly. Forever, forever and always." She threw her arms around him, squeezing tight. Shadow barked and tried to join the hug tail, wagging furiously. "I love you, Dad," Lily said into his chest. The word hit Marcus like a wave. Dad. He'd never expected to hear it. Never thought he wanted to. "I love you too, sweetheart." Helen watched from the doorway, dabbing at her eyes. James stood beside her, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. "I'm a grandmother," Helen said, half laughing, half crying. "I never thought, after everything, Life surprises us, James said quietly. Sometimes in the worst ways, sometimes in the best. They gathered for dinner that night. Helen's small house was crowded. Marcus, Lily, Shadow, James, Thomas, even Sheriff Diana Reyes, who had become a friend over the past months. The table was too small. The chairs didn't match. The food was simple, nothing fancy. It was perfect. "I want to propose a toast," Thomas said, raising his glass. "To Catherine. She would have loved this, all of it." "To Catherine," everyone echoed. Lily raised her cup of juice with solemn importance. "To Mommy, I miss you." The table fell silent. Helen reached over and took the little girl's hand. "Your mommy is watching," she said gently. "She sees everything you do, and she's so proud of you." "You think so. I know so." Lily smiled, that bright, innocent smile that had survived everything thrown at her. "Then I'll keep making her proud. Forever." Later that evening, Marcus found his father standing alone on the porch. The night was cool, stars scattered across the sky like thrown diamonds. "Room for one more," James moved aside. "Always." They stood in comfortable silence for a while, watching the darkness. "I've been thinking," James said finally, "about what happens next. And I want to stay, here in Colorado, near you and Helen and Lily." He paused. "If that's what everyone wants." "Is that what you want?" "I've spent 30 years wanting things I couldn't have. Home, family, peace." James turned to face his son. "Now I have a chance at all three. I'd be a fool to walk away." "You were a fool once before." "I was." No defensiveness, no excuses, just acknowledgement. "But I'd like to think I've learned something." Marcus considered his father. This man who had loomed so large in his imagination, the villain, the coward, the ghost. Now he was just a man. Older. Scarred. Trying to do better. "Mom's moving slowly," Marcus said. "She's not ready to forgive you completely. Maybe she never will be. I know. But she's willing to try. That's more than you deserve. I know that too. So don't screw it up." Marcus's voice hardened slightly. "If you hurt her again, if you disappear, if you lie, if you give her any reason to regret giving you this chance, you'll make me regret it. Thoroughly." James nodded. "Fair enough." Silence again, but warmer this time. "There's something else," James said. "Something I should have told you a long time ago." "What? I'm proud of you, Marcus. Not because you're a SEAL, not because you're a hero. Because you stopped." He met his son's eyes. "On that road in that storm, you stopped. Most people wouldn't have. Most people would have kept driving. You would have stopped." "Would I?" James shook his head. "I'm not sure anymore. I spent so long hiding, protecting myself, I forgot how to help anyone else. But you didn't." His voice broke slightly. "You saw a stranger in the snow, and you chose compassion over convenience. That's not something I taught you. That's who you are." Marcus felt something shift inside him. Something final. "Mom taught me," he said. "Every day by example. She never turned away from anyone who needed help. Even when we had nothing, she found ways to give. She always had more strength than me. Maybe. But you're here now. That counts for something." James placed his hand on Marcus's shoulder. It was the first time they'd touched, really touched, since this whole thing began. "Thank you," James said quietly, "for coming to find me, for giving me this chance. Thank Hayes. It was his dying wish. I'll thank him every day for the rest of my life." James's hand tightened briefly, then released. "And I'll try to be worthy of it." A year passed. Northfield Industries collapsed. The executives went to prison. The company's assets were liquidated, with most of the money going to a fund for victims' families. Margaret Chen wrote a book about the whole affair. It became a bestseller. She donated every penny to Catherine Brennan's memory, a scholarship fund for journalism students investigating corporate corruption. Victor Stain died in prison. Heart attack, the official report said. Nobody investigated too closely. Thomas Brennan became a grandfather in truth, as well as name. He moved to a small house near Marcus, close enough to visit, but far enough to give them space. He and Helen developed an unlikely friendship, two people bound by circumstance, choosing grace over bitterness. James and Helen took things slowly. Some days were better than others. They argued. They cried. They started therapy separately and together. But they also laughed. They cooked dinner together. They sat on the porch and watched the sunset, holding hands like teenagers. It wasn't the marriage they'd had before. It was something new. Something built on truth instead of silence. Marcus found peace in unexpected places. In Lily's laughter as she chased Shadow through the yard. In his mother's smile when James brought her flowers. In the quiet moments after dinner when everyone was together and no one needed to speak. He still woke sometimes from nightmares, the snow, the cold, the weight of a dying child in his arms. But now, when he opened his eyes, Lily was often there, standing in his doorway, Shadow at her side. Bad dream. Yeah, sweetheart. Bad dream. Want me to stay? Always. She'd climb into bed beside him, small and warm, and the nightmares would fade, replaced by something stronger. Family. On the anniversary of the night, Marcus found Lily in the snow. He drove back to that stretch of highway. Alone this time. Just him and the memory. He stood in the exact spot where he'd made the choice to stop. The same frozen road. The same endless white. A car passed. Then another. Neither one slowed. Marcus understood. He didn't judge them. Everyone had somewhere to be. Everyone had reasons to keep driving. But he'd stopped. And everything had changed. His mother's voice echoed in his memory from a time when he was too young to understand, don't turn your back on someone weaker than you. You never know when you'll be the one standing alone. He'd carried those words with him through 2 decades of military service, through firefights and disasters and moments when death felt certain, through the long years of thinking his father had abandoned him. And when it mattered most, when a little girl lay dying in a snowdrift, he'd remembered. He'd stopped. That was the thing about kindness, Marcus realized. It didn't save everyone. It didn't fix everything. It didn't make the world fair or just or safe. But it created ripples, connections, possibilities that didn't exist before. He'd stopped for a stranger and found a daughter. He'd saved an old man and uncovered the truth about his father. He'd carried a child through a blizzard, and somehow in the carrying found himself. Marcus got back in his truck. The heater hummed. The road stretched ahead familiar now. He was going home. Not to an empty apartment, not to silence and solitude, but to a house full of noise and chaos and love, to a daughter who called him Dad, to parents who were finally learning to forgive, to a family that had formed from tragedy and chosen to become something beautiful. He thought about Hayes, who had died protecting that family, about Catherine, who had given her life for the truth, about all the people who had sacrificed so that this moment could exist. He owed them. He owed them everything. and he would spend the rest of his life earning it. When he pulled into the driveway, Lily was waiting on the porch. Shadow sat beside her, tail wagging. "Dad!" She ran toward him, arms wide. "You came back." He caught her, lifting her high, spinning her around once before pulling her close. "I told you I would." "I know, but I still like when you do." He carried her toward the house, Shadow trotting alongside. Through the window he could see his parents setting the table. Thomas was there too, helping Helen with the dishes. A family, imperfect, wounded, whole. "Dad, yeah, sweetheart, will you always carry me?" Marcus looked at his daughter. This miracle he'd found in the snow. This gift he'd never expected and couldn't imagine living without. "Always," he said, "until you're ready to walk. And then I'll walk beside you." She smiled and rested her head on his shoulder. "That's good enough," she said quietly. "That's everything." He carried her inside. The door closed behind them. The porch light glowed warm against the darkness, and somewhere in the quiet places where Grace lives, a little girl's mother smiled. Her daughter was home. They all were. Some miracles arrive with thunder and light. Others come quietly through a stranger who stops on a frozen road. Through blood shared at the right moment. Through forgiveness that takes a lifetime to reach. This family had found each other in the worst possible circumstances. They had been broken, scattered, lost. But they had chosen to heal. They had chosen to stay, and in the end, that was enough. That was everything.